Hey YouTube, what if you could have only 5 specific bushcraft or camping tools for the rest of your life? Which ones would you bet the rest of your life on? What 5 would you choose? How would you even decide? In 5 to Survive, we ask experts what tools they would choose. We pick their brains about why and give you 5 things to consider adding to your gear. We also learn a little about the skills you need to use those tools. Whether you learn something or just enjoy listening to outdoor geeks talking about their gear, please subscribe and hit the notification button. We also have a companion podcast that includes all of the discussion in the YouTube episodes, but it includes more in-depth discussion with the experts, the why behind their what of their choices, and some laughs. I'm Joe Bassett, this is Valiant Outfitters, and you're about to discover 5 to Survive. Hey interwebs, today we talk about cutting tools with the bug-out bag man himself, Creek Stewart. Creek is the founder of Willow Haven Outdoors in Anderson, Indiana, and the host of the Weather Channel's Could You Survive with Creek Stewart? Of course, the answer to that question is yeah, we could survive with Creek. The real question is, how would we ever survive without him? He's appeared on The Today Show, Fox and Friends, WGN, and has been featured in Backpacker and Outdoor Life magazines. He's also been featured on countless blog sites, including one of my favorites, The Art of Manliness, which is where I first learned of Creek. He's written at least 8 instructional books, by my count, a fictional book, and countless field guides. In fact, he's probably written and released another book while he was waiting for me to finish this introduction. If that isn't enough, Creek is an Eagle Scout and received the National Eagle Scout Association's Outstanding Eagle Scout Award. But even without all of that, he has the coolest name and the coolest hair in all of bushcraft. Today he's hanging with us to discuss cutting tools he would want in his collection if he could have only 5. I'm Joe Bassett, this is Valiant Outfitters, and you're about to discover 5 to Survive. Hey Creek, welcome to Valiant Outfitters 5 to Survive. This is fantastic that you're joining us.
Hey man, it is so good to be with you, Joe. I've been following what you're doing lately, and I am all on board.
Well, we'll get to how you're the one I can blame it on. But before we get to that 5 to Survive, let's talk a little bit about how you turned your passion for the outdoors into not just one business, but a bunch of businesses. I mean, you've done T-shirts, you've done key fobs. I'm not sure what else you've got going on, but I heard a legend about you starting as a pharmacy major. Yeah. And then naming a crow after one of your least favorite professors, and you don't need to name him. But I'm curious as to how all of that got you to what you're doing now with bushcraft and survival and just being outdoors.
Yeah, well, that's a really good question. So a lot of people ask, well, because I'm a serial entrepreneur, admittedly. Okay, so I have a passion for survival, the outdoors, and entrepreneurship. So you'll find me dabbling in all 3 of those pretty much all the time. So I grew up in Boy Scouts and fell in love with the outdoors then. Still a huge fan of scouting, special place in my heart for scouting and scouters alike. And went to college to be a pharmacy major because that's who was driving the nice car in our tiny town in southern Indiana. So my parents thought that might be a good career choice. Comes to find out, I was really good in school, but I was really, really bored in the classroom. And so I tried to figure out a way to just be a full-time Boy Scout. And the best idea I could think of at the time was to start teaching the things I learned in Boy Scouts. And so I taught my first wilderness survival course, which was my favorite merit badge in Boy Scouts. I taught my first wilderness survival course when I was in college. And that was the beginning of a 12-year roller coaster saga of trying to make money in that business. Okay. So I started a lot of little other businesses and worked all kinds of other full-time jobs while trying to make a living doing wilderness survival. And then eventually determined that I've got to have all kinds of little income streams within the survival industry to make a living. So I was teaching, I was writing, I was traveling, I was blogging, I was selling products. So that really was the advent of so many of my different businesses in the outdoor space.
Fantastic. I knew about, of course, your affinity for scouting. I was a scout, and spent some time as a scouter. Was the national liaison for the Salvation Army with BSA, but never made Eagle Scout. Never got there. And then you're talking about being, in the outdoors and appreciating that. A lot of affinity there for that type of thing. Though the difference, I think, between us is I wasn't a good student. I could have been, but I would skip school to go spend time in the woods. I'm not advocating that for anybody, but we took different paths there. As I've had the chance to get to know you a little bit better, it's become obvious that along with your passion for the outdoors and bushcraft, you have a passion for equipping and encouraging people to achieve their own vision and calling. I'm pretty sure that your picture is next to the word encouragement in the dictionary. I don't think I've ever heard you say anything even remotely negative about a person. And in that, your Survival CEO Mastermind course, which of course is that's why I blame you for me now being in this, because you're the one that really encouraged me to do that. That's on your outdoorcore.com. That's been integral, to, not just to me, but several others as we've been starting our own businesses, particularly with bushcraft or survival. What is it that drives that passion for you to equip other people?
Well, I just know what a blessing being able to do what I love for a living has been in my life. I mean, I've worked jobs that I've not enjoyed. I've worked jobs that I've hated. I've worked for people that I didn't really want to even be around. And being able to work for myself, especially doing something that I enjoy in the outdoors, has been one of the greatest blessings of my entire life. And I would wish that for anyone who has a desire to do something that they love and work for themselves. And that involves the freedom and flexibility to spend more time doing what you love and make a living doing it, and maybe even spend more time with your family and and everything that entails. And so I have a real heart for that, because I just know how it changed and has molded the past 20 years of my life. And I tell you, man, if I ended my days only helping just a few people achieve or realize that same dream, I will die a happy man.
Well, I'm going to say thank you, not just for myself, but I know a lot of us that have been in that course with you. I really appreciate it. There are a lot of guys that, they say, yeah, I'll lend my support and that, but they always want something in return. I've never gotten the feeling from you that you expect anything in return other than just getting to watch us grow and incorporate all these things and be successful at it. So thanks, Creek.
Yeah, you're welcome. One thing I learned early on in my business career was, the quickest way to get to where you want to go is to, at the same time, help people get to where they want to go. And you may not see the return of that directly or even quickly, but I am living proof that return absolutely comes around in one way, shape, or form.
Fantastic. And I love that you're bringing that experience and expertise to this discussion for Five to Survive. So here are the rules of engagement. I've asked you to consider one tool in each of 5 categories that you would want in your bushcraft or survival gear if you could have only one in each category for the rest of your life. These aren't necessarily the tools that you would have in your bug out bag or everyday carry, just available in your closet. Within each category, you're given leeway to choose any tool that you feel fits into that category. And here are our categories: a folding pocket knife, a small fixed blade knife, such as a neck knife, a large fixed blade knife, such as a bushcraft knife, probably a belt carry, an axe, hatchet, or tomahawk, and a saw. I'm also going to allow you to add one wildcard tool, which is a polite way of saying, hey, Joe, do you even bushcraft? That was a boneheaded list of categories. Here's something you forgot. Or you can add an additional in any one of those other categories. Finally, we'll talk a little bit about the why behind the what, because that's important. So I may give you some questions about grind or ergonomics and multitasking. And then finally, as I've shared, I'm going to do my best to include links to purchase anything that you recommend. And don't be afraid to list your own merchandise. As long as it really is one of your 5 to survive, we're not above self-promotion and self-aggrandizement here. So you ready? We'll get to it.
Sounds good.
All right, first up, that EDC or pocket knife. What if you could only have one, what would you choose?
So one of my favorite all-time pocket knives, and it's a little too big sometimes for the pocket, is the Buck 110.
No, no doubts. Yep.
And this, my grandpa carried this knife, my dad carried this knife, and I carry this knife 85% of the time out of nostalgia. Now, I actually carry the Buck 110 on a holster cross draw sheath like this. So I'll draw left and pull this knife, but it's just your classic Buck 110 folder, wooden handle. I've managed not to break the tip off of it, which is very, very common. I've got multiple Buck 110s where I've just ground the tip down and the shape of the blade is a little bit different because it's really, really easy to break the tip off of a Buck 110. So, but 85% of the time you will see me carrying a Buck 110 folder. I've got probably 10 Buck 110s, and some of them are limited edition, where they have special printed handles or like stag handles or something like that. But, this one that looks like the one my grandpa carried is the one I carry most of the time.
Oh yeah, you can't beat the 110. I've got the one that my dad carried, and I carry it now. I don't carry that every day. I do a 55 carry. One thing about the Buck knives that I really like is I broke the tip on an 0.55, and I was being stupid with it. I contacted Buck to see if they would regrind it for me, and they sent me a brand new knife, no questions asked.
Wow.
And I even said to them, listen, I was being stupid with it. It's not like it was a defect. So yeah, you can't beat that 110. Do you do anything to modify it? Have you modified the grind, or you just go with it?
I just go with it. It's always a little trick. The Buck 110 isn't the easiest knife in the world to sharpen.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll oftentimes find me sharpening my Buck 110. It holds an edge for a long time, but I haven't changed the grind. I just try to keep it as traditional as it comes out of the box. So.
All right, now a small fixed blade knife. What do you prefer there?
Yeah. So, I mean, it'd be hard for me to recommend anything besides the Mora. This is the Mora Companion. And so this is a new one that I just grabbed off the shelf here because we sell a ton of these. But these are what, $20 on Amazon, $18 on Amazon. And quite frankly, if this is the only knife I use for the rest of my life, I'd probably be very happy with it because I've used these Mora MGs for 15 years, and I have the same one that I started with 15 years ago, and I am not easy on knives. Okay. And a lot of people would really like to give these Moras a hard time because they're a rat tail tang. So they're a tapered tang inside of this molded grip, but I have absolutely never been able to break a Mora. I have batoned through ridiculous logs with these little Moras. I've thrown, one thing I love to do, don't tell anyone in scouting this, one thing I love to do when I land at camp after a long day's hike is I always throw my knife. I love throwing my knife at stumps. It's just an old time hobby that I did when I was a kid. And so I've thrown Moras for years and years and years, never broken one. They are the most razor sharp knife out of the box of any knife I think I've ever purchased. I don't know that you can get anything sharper just straight out of the packaging if you buy one. And they're under $20. It's like a ridiculous. And it's made in Sweden, it's just it's just such an incredible, and you can buy like these aftermarket leather sheaths on Etsy. And so you can take this knife and you can stick it in a really fantastic sheath and just toss this plastic sheath that comes with it, which is still really functional, but stick it in a nice leather sheath or a Kydex sheath. There's some incredible craftsmen and craftswomen on Etsy who are making just heirloom quality sheaths for those Mora 840s.
Yeah, I've talked to some guys who have had the Mora Companion, and they first bought it kind of as a disposable knife. They thought, I'll beat on it and throw it away, and they still have the same one they've been using for years. Or I think a lot of people kind of look down on them because they're popular, because they're so available, and they think, well, if it's that popular and available, it can't be that good a knife. Somebody sold themselves out for it. But it's funny when I go to do a course and I'll have my big BK2 on, like, to kind of impress people. And then when it's
Yeah.
time to get to work, I take that off and pull out my Mora.
I know, dude. I've done that so many times. I always say to someone, if someone's watching this and they're looking to purchase their first bushcraft or survival knife, get a Mora. You'll probably never need another knife for the rest of your life. It's a fantastic knife. And the leather sheath, there's a guy on Etsy, Schenkel Leatherworks.
Yeah, yeah.
Jim Schenkel out of Ohio. He makes some fantastic, really economical leather sheaths for not only the Mora, but a variety of knives.
Right. Yeah, I learned about his work, I think, through your Apoca box, or one of the things I got from you.
Yeah.
And I looked at his stuff. It's just fantastic stuff. So yeah, if you want to get the Mora but still trick it out a bit, there you go.
Yeah.
You can look impressive with one of his.
Totally.
All right. Well, speaking of the BK2, how about your large fixed blade knife?
Yeah. So I have a hobby. I have a habit of really using a knife heavily for a few years. And then I've got an itch to get a new knife, and then I use another knife heavily for a few years. I don't think I've used one kind of large bushcraft survival knife my entire career. So the one I'm still using, I don't know that it's even available for sale anymore. It was one that I had made by a company in Kentucky called Reptile Toolworks a few years ago. This is called the Corvid, not the COVID. This is a kukri style blade. And I was just enamored by kukris for a long time, but I didn't want one of the big machete kukris. It was really impractical. So I had them make this smaller, a little bit more manageable kukri. It's got whiskey barrel handles on it, which makes it a little unique. But I don't know if you can see the character on that blade,
Yeah.
but just a real hand forged character to it. I sold a lot of these for a couple of years. I don't sell them anymore, but I still use and love this knife. It's a cross draw, which I really think is cool. The sheath is made by a company in Ohio called Voyager Leatherworks. Adam with Voyager Leatherworks is another really fantastic craftsman of sheaths in general. But I'm a big fan of the kukri right now. And I got to tell you, though, I'm about to make a switch, I think, to this one right here. This is called the Colonel.
Yes, I love that knife.
I know this. So this is the Colonel by Jason Hunt with Campcraft Outdoors. And I picked this up from him a few weeks ago, and I've only used it lightly, but I got to tell you, man, this is about the sexiest knife I've seen in a long time. It's got this, looks like I think that's white oak handle. The grip is ridiculous. Kentucky is my favorite state, which is where he's from. And I know he's named it after the Kentucky Colonel. Right. And these are made, I believe, here in Indiana by Dan Ferguson knives. And man, I got to tell you, I said the Moras are the sharpest knife out of the box, but this one may actually be sharper than Moras right out of the box. I mean, it comes with this leather sheath. This one's about to be my new grab and go into the woods knife, man. And I'm super, super excited to start beating it up a little bit. So I'm about to make that switch. So those are my two, right now at least, larger bushcraft knives.
Yeah, Jason and I talked about the Colonel when I did 5 to Survive with him as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I said to him, yeah, I definitely have to get one. And I saw that he just got some more in to order, so I think I'm going to have to jump on that.
Dude, they're so nice. And as someone who has gone through the process of having knives hand forged and made and manufactured, like, man, they have done a fantastic job with that knife. It is just, I mean, it's top shelf stuff, man. Like, when you pull it out, you're like, dang, this guy knew what he was doing when he made this knife.
Hey, I want to ask you, you've mentioned twice a cross carry. Now, are you a cross carry guy? Do you do scout carry, or is it mostly just cross carry?
I just do a cross. So I'm right-handed. So my knife mounts on my left side and I cross draw right and pull. I am a cross draw carry guy. I used to carry on my right hip, but I just, maybe it's the cowboy in me, man, because, I feel like I'm pulling a 6-shooter every time I pull my knife out, man. And I absolutely love that look. I love that feeling. It's a little different from what everybody else is doing. And I just like the feel of a cross draw knife, man. You know, I don't know why, other than I feel cool wearing it and I
Right.
feel cool drawing it.
Yeah, Jason and I talked about that as well, but we had a different reason for why we do the cross draw. Because unlike you flat bellies, we have to get it out of the way of our belly.
Yeah, I don't have that problem, man. But man, I love carrying them cross draw. In fact, I will eventually. This is this kernel. I'm gonna figure. I'm gonna hire someone to make me a cross draw sheath for this kernel. You know, it gives me an opportunity to make my knives a little bit different too. Even though it's the same knife, if I have a cross draw sheath made, it's all of a sudden a totally different look and feel, which, everybody likes to add a little bit of personal flair to their style and their kit. And, I really appreciate someone who has the ability to do leather work. I really think it's a true talent. And I love supporting those people. And so I'm excited to have a cross draw sheath made for that.
Do you do any other modifications? Like, do you patina the blades at all, or change grinds, change scales or handles or anything?
No, in fact, you're hard pressed to get me to clean my knives very often. Despite the fact that I am a seasoned woodsman, I'm rough on my tools, man. They are not showcase blades. They are a working man's tool, and I do not baby them or care for them nearly as much as I should.
All right, well, moving on. A Hax, Hatchet, or Tomahawk? What do you got there?
Yeah, so my go-to for years has been this. This is a small, I believe this is the 20-inch Wetterlings, and I don't know if Wetterlings is even still selling.
Yeah, I haven't seen them for a long time.
Yeah, I know. I think they were like replaced by Grands 4 and then by another brand. I don't follow it well, close enough to know, but I got this axe years ago, probably 15 years ago. This is I believe the 20-inch Wetterlings, and it is a fantastic. And see, I even had a sheath made for it, so a belt sheath made for it. So you can see, I mean, even this one is covered in mud. I mean, you can even see it. Like, look at all the mud on it. Clearly, I've hacked it into the ground. But I got to tell you, man, this little sucker right here has been just a tried and true tool for me, man, in so many different ways. I went through a phase where I was a bow saw guy, where I had a big Baco 36-inch bow saw that I really love to take into the woods. But I'm back to being a hatchet guy. And this will always be my hatchet of choice until it breaks. And even then, well, how can you break it? Maybe break the handle. You just have an opportunity to put a new handle on.
Well, yeah, as soon as you pulled it out, my first thought was, wow, look at that handle. I wish it could tell stories.
Oh man, I filmed 2 seasons of Fat Guys in the Woods with this axe. It's been all over the place with me, man. And it's been on so many personal camping trips, and it's done a lot of work in the woods. I mean, you can just see the wear and tear on that thing.
Yeah.
It's been a really, really good hatchet for me. And I believe this Wetterlings was a Swedish made axe when it was made. And it was just, I mean, when I got it, man, it would shave the hair off your arm, and that's rare for a hatchet.
Right.
For years, I kept it hair shaving sharp. It's not now, but for years I kept it that way, and it's really something to be able to work a spoon with just a razor sharp axe or just some campcraft stuff.
Mm-hmm. I have to say, I was a little surprised when you pulled that out as well. I was expecting to be more of a tomahawk guy.
Yeah, I certainly have a handful of tomahawks, but I just don't feel like they're nearly as functional. I love throwing tomahawks, but man, I just can't chop with them like I can with a hatchet, and I really use that for chopping, and it throws like crap. I can't throw it where it's so top heavy. I mean, it's just dangerous. I throw it all the time, but it's dangerous to throw. But I mean, I'd love to just be good with a tomahawk, but I'm just not there.
Right. All right. So your saw, what do you go to for a saw?
Yeah. So for years, I carried a Baco Laplander, which is a really popular folding saw. But I've since You know, these are kind of no brand saws.
Mm-hmm.
These are the two I use most often. I put both of these in a pocket box shipment at one point. This one comes in the welcome box for a pocket box, and then this is one we did several years ago. I really like these two saws because I can buy extra blades for them and switch out the blades. So you see these nuts right here. It allows me to pick up extra blades for these saws and switch out the blades so that I just always have a nice saw blade going in my folding saw. I really have come to believe that a folding saw is a critical piece of
Yeah.
kit. I can't imagine going into the woods really without one. I mean, I use them so much. But I used, if someone were to say, what folding saw should I buy? I'm just getting started. I would say spend $29 and get a Baco Laplander, which I believe is also a Swedish brand, I think. But these are kind of a no brand saw that you could pick up on Amazon for under $20, and they would really allow you to cut your teeth with a folding saw, as they would say, for very, very inexpensively. So unfortunately, I can't really give a brand there unless you wanted to subscribe to a pocket box, then you'd get one.
There you go. Well, like I said, we're not above self-promotion, self-aggrandizement here.
Yeah.
Do you happen to know what the folded length on those is?
Yeah. So this one right here looks like about 10 inches.
Mm-hmm.
And this one right here, I believe this is about a 12 inch, 11 inch. Kind of a
Wow, that one looks aggressive.
It is. It really is, man. It's a great little saw. It's got kind of this ergonomic handle to it.
Mm-hmm.
But I do prefer saws that have a rubberized grip to them.
Mm-hmm.
Makes a big difference not only when you're sawing for an extended period of time, but when you're sawing in wet or snowy conditions, just your hands or muddy.
Yeah.
It's slipping. Some saws do not have that rubberized grip, so I would recommend picking one up that's got a rubberized grip to it.
Well, cool. All right, that's 5 now. Wild card. What I miss, or what would you like to add?
Yeah, well, I've got one, man, that I mean, this just comes from when I'm a kid. I can't imagine ever. I don't know why anyone would ever go into the woods without one of the original fidget spinners, right? I mean, you've got to go into the woods with a Ninja Star.
Okay.
So not only just in case you run across a pack of ninjas,
Yeah.
but there is nothing more fun once you hit camp. If you don't want to throw your expensive knife, I mean, dang, I absolutely love. Now, in full transparency, there are some states where these are outlawed. Okay.
Right.
So you got to check your local, believe it or not, you can't have a Ninja Star in some states. So you got to check your local rules and regulations on Ninja Stars. But what a fun thing to throw around at camp. Totally not functional for anything else except having a little bit of fun when you have some downtime at camp. So if you're not a Ninja Star person, I would highly recommend the Woodsman's Pal. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a USA, Pennsylvania made product, and it is a fantastic machete. I spent several weeks in the Puerto Rican jungle, and I don't know what I would have done without this particular tool. So if you're in the South, okay, where vegetation can just get gnarly, and especially if you're in any type of jungly environment, this Woodsman's Pal is just a fantastic machete chopping tool. It's got kind of a vine hook on it or a root hook. It's very top heavy. It swings like a beast, and it's a really, really unique quality made tool that if you're going the machete route, I would highly recommend that one. It's a really different tool. It fills a gap between some of your other tools for sure.
Yeah, when I was in Puerto Rico following Hurricane Maria, and when I went down, I made sure, to take two knives, both a small fixed blade and a larger fixed blade. And after I arrived there, I wanted to kick myself that I didn't take a machete down with me. Yeah, that would have been fantastic to have while I was down there.
Yeah, they make another really interesting tool. I don't have it here with me. I actually gave it to one of our hosts in Puerto Rico, but it's a longer handled. Imagine like a baseball bat handle with a smaller version of this on the end of it. It was such a wicked tool. I took them both, and I used that one a lot too. A lot more extended reach. It was a really weird tool, but it served so well. I ended up giving it to one of the people there. I even had like some scripture engraved on it. It was really a neat tool. And I have to pick one up one day again.
But have you ever thought of like putting scripture on the Ninja Star?
Yeah, no, but I like to engrave my knives. I definitely have been known to take a knife to an engraving shop and spend the $20 or $30 to personalize it. Whether I typically do, it's one of my favorite scripture verses on the blade, but I'll sometimes, like when I give them as gifts, I'll almost always engrave them with their name or a small message or something like that. So, that's really how you can take a knife, I think, to a next level, just personalized, and it becomes, just a really unique piece that you can hand down to your kids or your grandkids. And, I'm still using my grandpa's tools, and I appreciate the story in them so much. And, hopefully one day somebody will look at those words on a knife or an axe or something and, think it's interesting.
Yeah, I when I've ordered gifts, I'll gift bucks. Like I got one from my son, and I've gotten from both of my sons-in-laws, and when I do that, I'll have them engraved. But I never thought about taking one aftermarket and having it engraved. So that's something I'll definitely think about. I like that.
Yeah, I take mine to a local trophy shop because they have a laser engraver to do their trophies, and they were happy to do engraving on my blade for me. Yeah, Buck has a really interesting thing. A few years ago, I bought all the guys in my family a personalized Buck 110 folder, and you can kind of go through this tool online. You can choose the scales, you can choose the color, whether it's brass or silver. You can choose the pins. You can do a bunch of cool stuff, and you can do an engraving option too. And I did that, and I made everybody's different with an engraved, and it was cool, man.
Yeah, yeah. Well, this has been really great. I appreciate you doing this for me. I've been looking forward to doing this with you. What can people do to learn more about what you do?
Yeah, so the easiest way is just to head over to creekstewart.com, and when you get there, you're going to see a pop-up to sign up to my email list. And that's how you're going to learn about everything that I'm offering, everything that I'm doing, and everything that's kind of in the pipeline with Creek Stewart. So I'll feed you emails once you sign up to the email list. It'll be all kinds of really, really, really great information, and then I'll kind of work you through all the stuff that I'm doing, and you'll learn a lot of stuff along the way. So that's the best way to get in touch with me.
Well, fantastic. I appreciate it, and I'll make sure to get all those links. Have a good day, Creek.
Hey, thanks, Joe. Appreciate you, man, and best of luck to you.
Thanks.